Hi, it's Cassia Streb with Music for Your Inbox, and today I'm going to chat with Ariel Oakley, who's a painter, and chat with her about her art this month coming out on Music for Your Inbox. Let me just take a second to invite her to join us.
Ariel's piece is called Every Breath Ever Taken, and it's paired this month with a sound film by Ian Power and Clint McCallum. Oh, here she is. Hello.
Hi.
It's great to see you. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure.
I was just sort of flashing your art on the internet here. We've got your postcards. I know you're not in California right now, so I don't even know if you've gotten to see them in real life.
No, I haven't yet.
But anyhow, I just thought today we could chat about your work as a visual artist, and also specifically with this piece, Every Breath Ever Taken. I wonder if you could start with talking about, because I know your path to being like an artist with a master's and all of that has been kind of a fun journey, and I'm curious if you could take us through a brief overview of that.
Yeah, sure. It's funny because I just gave my big thesis dissertation this last week, and I decided to share a lot more than I normally do about this journey. 16 years ago or so, I finished my BFA at the San Francisco Art Institute, and my father got incredibly sick, and my father was 60 when I was born, to kind of put it in perspective. So he was in his 80s then, and I kind of was applying to grad schools and then just did this hard pivot to go take care of him at his end of life. And during that time, it was so meaningful and so special to be with him. But I also was an art school baby who didn't know anything about heart failure or how to take care of a geriatric person. So I started just taking classes at the community college for nursing aides and assistants, just so I could better understand what was going on with him. And in the process, I fell deep for pathophysiology and all of these pre-nursing courses. I really started understanding what was going on with him and his body and his heart failure, and that led to better care for him. And so I just kind of went to the nursing program. I fell into it, and I became a registered nurse so that I could keep him home at his end of life and not have him go into skilled nursing care. So that was my kind of impetus to go into nursing, was this very tender, loving relationship with my father at the end of his life. And then when he passed, I was offered a training program at USC for surgery. And, in my grief, I was like, this sounds great. I will go and take care of people. And I started on the neurosurgery team, and then I moved into open heart surgery. And I think I've always just been kind of drawn to doing things with the heart. And heart surgery was a natural progression, and I loved it. And so I've been at USC for the last 11 years. Most of that time was on the open heart team doing heart and lung transplants and aortic dissections. And, it was really fulfilling and really a lovely way to untangle my grief. And while I was working there, I started having all of these experiences, kind of mired in my grief and thinking about what happens to us after we die. And I'm doing all of these transplant surgeries and procurements. And there's these organs that are living and continuing to live in other bodies. And the boundary between life and death just got really blurry for me. And I knew I needed to return to art making to understand it. There was a section of science that could never tell me what was going on.
Right. Oh, exactly. Because they're doing the thing through science, they're solving it, but as a recipient on the other end of it, the word miracle comes to mind, but that always feels like such a stopgap word, at least for my own father had heart disease quite young, sort of out of the blue, no one knew. And that surgery, the ones that you're talking about, he didn't have a transplant or anything, but like a bypass surgery, it feels like a miracle. You're like, wait, they were gone and now they're back. And that sort of slippage of being alive and not being alive is, I can see why you would need art to kind of solve that veil of like passing through these two spaces. That makes a lot of sense to me, what you're saying. So you're talking about like, yeah, processing that kind of stuff, but there's also like your art making is, it's like super technical and realistic, and it requires a lot of skill. I'm curious, like, how did you maintain that high skill level while doing this job that I can imagine is many, many hours per week?
Oh, I mean, we draw all the time in surgery. I feel like that's a way you kind of communicate what's going on in the body, what the plan is. And I would just be drawing all the time anyway on like little scrap pieces of paper.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that kind of like entered into my visual like lexicon, is like all of these interior drawings from observation.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things that I've never been able to let go of a drawing and artistic practice, even when I've been working these like really long shifts at the hospital. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's always been the way that I make sense of the world. And so that never went away, even with this kind of turn.
Right, right. Oh, okay. So it's been, yeah, just integrated. It sounds like what you're describing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to say, like, I'm balancing kind of two full-time lives. I've like worked 3 days a week in the hospital, and the other 3 days a week I go to the studio, and then I take one day off. Like my
right.
my sanity day.
To brush your teeth and buy groceries, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
yeah.
you know, nursing prepares you for like 24-hour days and 12-hour shifts as like a norm, like
Mm-hmm.
especially in surgery. And so I just
Right.
feel like my stamina for like long periods of working has just kind of come from that.
Yeah,
So
that makes
having 3 studio days that are like 12 to 16 hours long, like actually feels fine and like balanced. I'm trying to like, yeah, create this balance between the studio and the operating room that feels sustainable and gives both of them kind of room to influence one another. I always kind of think of surgery as like a parallel practice in this other world in which I like move and think. And so things from the studio will come to the operating room, things from the operating room will come to the studio.
Right, right. I see. So sort of these two halves of you.
Yeah.
I'm curious because you mentioned that you had like started into this idea in terms of like processing and figuring out like the difference between life and death in that moment and stuff. Have you had any insights? I mean, I'm sorry, I know it's a giant question, but I'm saying are there threads that you're pulling at that you're kind of like following along?
I'm just afraid of sounding creepy. But okay, I've been also doing a lot of research and reading, and there's this one book called Notes on Complexity by Neil Theise, where he's a pathologist and he talks about looking at all these pathological slides until when he goes out in the world, it no longer makes sense to him. And I feel like that's where I've been thinking so much about my cellular anatomy and these like different scales of being so much that sometimes I'm like, I don't know how my hands move. Like I start to feel this kind of actual physical dissonance from being like the illusion of myself. So I think that the only kind of epiphany that I've had is just that complete integration, and that like all of the creatures and microbes that are living on me and with me are me. And that's a hard thing to carry in your daily life, but I feel like I have those flashes more often than I ever used to, and feeling more at home, especially when I'm in Los Angeles. Like I feel my biome, like I'm like hearing the coyotes yip and like being out and walking in the hills and like having those particular smells. I feel very like participatory in my environment on like a micro level, which, you know, sometimes feels new agey, but instead I just like to feel it as a like, this is like the bodily sensation of me paying attention, like to its like minute degree, and giving myself space to feel corny about it. Like, well, I mean, through that feeling.
You're in Southern California. Like, if you want to feel corny and new agey, like join the masses. But also, I think that is can be like a really fulfilling way to move through the world and to live. And it sounds like that it kind of, in a way, is not reconciling in a, that's the wrong word, but I'm just thinking about the way that it's kind of connecting these two things for you, where you're, because what I think is tricky is this sort of like world of, and I do want to talk about you as an artist, not only your practice in medicine, but I'm thinking about how, like, we, the people receiving the medical care and stuff, are seeing it as like, oh, you're keeping this person in my life, or this, whereas what you're actually doing technically is very, very, very technical. You're like connecting things to other things and making systems operate as they're supposed to and things like that. So I could see how having that experience of being outside and experiencing your biome can kind of sort of put those in a way that you can still function as a person. Because I hear that you're saying that's, I think it's tricky for a lot of us. Again, I'm a musician and I'm from a musical background, and there's this practice of deep listening that Pauline Oliveros is inviting us to do, where you're really listening to the ends of your possible ability to listen. And when you really steep in that, it can get very woo-woo and out there, and you're like, what does anything mean anymore? And how do my hands work? How do my ears work? It sounds like this practice is like kind of mind expanding for you. So when you think about yourself being the baby artist pre-medical and now, because there's sort of these two paths that could have, there's a version of you that graduates and goes straight to grad school, and I don't know what your plans were. And then there's the version of you that exists. Like, how kind of different do they feel to you right now?
Oh, very. Like, I was a figurative painter, and I was working on the exterior of the body, and was always really interested in anatomy, but now I'm working on the interior of the body. And there's a like level of enrichment there that I don't think that I would even know that I was missing. And like thinking about the underneath of surfaces of all things, and like the ground, the earth, like everything has this other matrix, but I feel like I was really just trying to capture light and think about figures. And now my understanding of my relationship to the things that I'm trying to depict is so different. And the desire to depict things with realism or naturalism has gone away. I'm much more interested in these kind of images that are diagrammatic or iconic, that transmit like more meaning than trying to put you into a space. So I can't imagine my life without having gone into surgery at this point. And I think it's time, really. Like 10 years is a long time to like, surgery is transformative. Like learning how to move in the operating room changes the way that you move your body, because you have to remain sterile. And so you like walk differently and you hold your hands differently.
Right.
And it's almost like my best equivalent is like being an acolyte, to like learning how to like go into the sacred space. Like it constricts your movements. Not everyone is allowed in there. You like have to take all the time and training to be allowed to do the thing. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I can't imagine myself without that transformation.
Yeah. No, you sound, when I'm hearing you talk, it's reminding me of people who are parents talking to people who aren't parents, or people who've been to war talking to people who haven't. Like that they're sort of like passing through and you're communicating with people who haven't, but it's just different. This is a different experience. I realized, like, because you did all of the, again, like the really precise technical, almost, it sounds like you're doing like photorealistic kind of painting, or you were saying, sorry, you said the correct term and I'm not saying it properly.
Oh, just figurative, like trying to
figurative
things in with naturalism.
But those technical skills that you acquired, which are not easy to get, I mean, there's a ton of study, I think are really serving your work now, because you're able to, I mean, I'm just looking at this one piece, obviously, as I'm holding it in my hand, but throughout all of your work, I'm seeing there's stuff that is, exactly representing exactly what it is. We know what it is, but then there's this sort of dreamy aspect of it as well. So I certainly think that your years spent acquiring all of those technical skills were not for nothing, because you've got this, like you were saying, it's much more compelling. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about the iconography, because that is a thread that I've seen through the work, especially within this collection, because this work is from a larger collection. Is it funny for you to see it this tiny, by the way?
No, it's so cute.
Oh, okay.
Well, it changes things, right? Like, that painting is like 3 feet by 5 feet, and my relation to it really relates to my body. So the heart and lungs that are inverted on it are much bigger than like my thorax and my shoulders. So I'm relating to them as this like big thing that I'm painting into. And so I can really get into the thinking about the lungs and their smaller details. Whereas when it's small, you're like, oh, there it is. It's like now shrunken down to smaller than my heart. And like the relation of that scale I have to encounter it differently. And it like feels more like a small, like intimate icon rather than this like larger piece. That painting was a part of, a triptych that was installed as a part of my thesis show, which was called Breath of Devotion. I kind of proposed this show initially as just a way of working for a year in which I would treat painting as like a devotional act. And that the images that came from the daily painting and drawing were kind of my time spent thinking and in devotion to the body. And so the icons that I've chosen to work with are almost entirely from like 13th century Italy in Siena. There's kind of this art making and, well, there's a confluence of events in Italy at that time where the first human dissections are taking place in Bologna since antiquity. Like they're the first like sanctioned dissections at a university. And at the same time, a lot of these iconic paintings and frescoes are being made in which you really see these eruptions or incisions in the fresco from which like divine beings are exiting or entering. So there's this really sense that like there is another world just past a membrane. And so I'm thinking of people entering the body and finding out all of these things from direct observation that they hadn't been able to for centuries.
Right.
And these paintings that are imagining, you know, a divine heavenly world erupting into the everyday. And so I kind of chose that as my inspiration for what to focus on in this group of works. And for me, it was really important to think kind of beyond the human and bring in this kind of sense of like Donna Haraway's like tentacular kin making, and was like, how can I decenter human faces from these icons and make it more complex in terms of what we think that we are. Right? I've had this epiphany that I'm like more than a human, and that I'm all of these things. So how can I make that apparent in this devotional practice? And so that's kind of where those icons, I tried to use the 13th century icons as a scaffold to kind of build my worldview upon.
Right. Well, and it's, I mean, it's achieving everything that you've set out to achieve. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Not always something as an artist that I get to, you know, you set out to make a point and then you can't. Yeah. And I feel like, you were mentioning that you had, because this piece, like, obviously this is part of the triptych, and then within, sorry, is it Breath of Devotion? Is that what you're, yes. That is part of your larger, like, thesis project, because there's also some kind of more sculptural pieces or pieces that are painted on like fabric and stuff like that. I mean, I understand canvas is fabric, but I'm saying fabric that's not stretched over a frame. Can you talk a little bit more about your work beyond the canvas, like the other pieces that you're making?
I chose to do some unstretched paintings because there was a lot of discussion around like most of my figures, I peel the skin off of them to render them. And so there's a lot of like, the skin is an organ. So it's like, cool, the canvas is the skin.
Right, right.
Can I give you this kind of like textural, visceral, skin-like thing to contend with at the same time? And making sculpture, I'm very much a painter. That's like where I feel most comfortable. But when I moved into working with the sculpture, especially, I took some like religious statuary and carved it up and started kind of doing some assemblage work. I really enjoyed it, and it felt like it was a way to do the same thing I was doing with my painting, but it was more complicated for me to accomplish. like I really had to like be in my body and had to deal with this thing that was in relation to my body. And that was really satisfying in terms of coming up with these very like, I use a lot of like kind of foam in the works, like spray
Mm-hmm.
foams, things that like in the end look really bodily and really goopy. And
Mm-hmm.
so when
Mm-hmm.
you interact with them, they don't ever give you this like simulacra, like you're looking at something well, they're a little grotesque, but like they're not a body. You know, they're not something
Right.
that is made of body,
Mm-hmm.
but just the suggestion is enough to kind of like give you the little
Mm-hmm.
and I liked it. It really gave me this like sense of these relics that we encounter and like those reliquaries in which there's kind of like a dried piece of something.
Right. Well, yeah, but you're not pushing on the disgust thing, which I find really interesting because a lot of people who are dealing with bodies and stuff are sort of like, oh, we're just a mass of goo. And that's a great artist practice for those people. But I'm saying for you, I really am interested in this aspect of it where you're like, my grandfather was a surgeon. And so like his approach to like things that were disgusting to us as kids was just completely different because he just sort of is like part of his daily life. And I feel like you're not trying to shock people. It's like you have this reverence for the human body, and there's a lot of kind of like respect, I guess, is the word for it, for like the complicated things that it's doing. And there are things that tiptoe up to not disgusting, but they tiptoe up to realism, I guess, which is true. We are big bags of goo. Like that is not untrue. It's just that I don't know. I feel like you're trying to translate it for us lay people who only see the outside of bodies, and you're acting as like a kind of a guide. Do you feel like you're taking on that role at all, or is that just something I'm interpreting?
I don't know about guide, but I do like it is true that I'm not interested in things that shock because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you're not then receptive to really seeing the thing. Plus, it's like I see it all the time. So when you make a simulacra of it, I'm like, that looks fake. Like it's never going to look real enough to be
Right.
satisfying to me. Then it feels like, I think this is like growing up in LA. It feels like movie magic, like
Right.
practical effects, which I do love. Like
Mm-hmm.
some exploding thing that looks, like I do love some weird body horror, but I don't want that. Like
Right.
that relationship to looking at the thing will always feel like it's behind this veil of spectacle. Whereas if you're really curious about what the thing is and it's made and it's like a little bit abject and a little bit grotesque, but it isn't confronting you with your interior and your thingness directly, I think that you can have a more like complicated relationship with the object. And I guess that more complicated relationship and trying to get people to think about the interior of their body, not through like illness or trauma. Like, I think that's when we think of the body revealed is through death. Like, you're never going to see your inside unless something has happened. But
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it and having a relationship to it that is based in just kind of like curiosity and
Mm-hmm.
ease
Mm-hmm.
is something that I'm interested in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think sort of childbirth is the only other time you get to see your insides on the outside in a sort of beautiful celebratory like way. You know what I mean? Like looking at
Yeah,
a
yeah.
placenta or something is very much like, oh my gosh, this was providing life for somebody for 9 months. Look at this thing, and that can kind of I don't know, I feel like that's sort of the only kind of common time, or one of the few common times where we get to celebrate our insides on the outside, when they're outside on purpose, like in a way that's not an illness. Um, we're talking a lot about your work that this practice for a year, and then you've just finished a master's degree. It's feeling like in your arc of your career, I know, right? You deserve a trophy and a crown.
I'll take it.
But I'm curious, like, are you, as an artist right now, are you taking a moment to sit back and kind of absorb that? Are you already like pushing through to a new idea? Like, what are things, I guess, sort of like, what's next in a not pressury way? If the answer is zero, that's fine.
No, I appreciate you because there is a lot of how do you feel and what's next. But like so much of my research had these little like tendrils reaching outward that I really didn't have time to get to.
Mm-hmm.
One section was kind of the more like mysticism aspect, thinking about like medieval mystics, the kind of like mysticism as a path to knowledge, and then just recently really diving back into Simone Weil and decreation,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about decreation as a lens to think about this not literal undoing of the creature that you are, but is that maybe the thing that I'm most thinking about is
Mm-hmm.
once you become all of your composite parts, is that decreation.
Oh, right.
Like, so I have,
And you're like, and then that's a painting.
I'm like, oh, is this an installation? Is
Right,
this
right. No, exactly.
like, how do I
Right.
get to that? So I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
really excited to take the kind of remainders of my research, bring it back into the studio and see where it goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to finish a show and have all the work done so you can put it away. My studio will now be empty. Like,
Right. Right.
get to
Right. And
start
then
again.
so you're sort of thinking of like following up, because I know what that's like when you're in the middle of an idea and there's another idea just kind of like whispering here and you're like, settle down. Like I need to finish this one first. So it sounds like
100%.
the next step for you is to kind of pay attention to this little voice and see
Yes.
where that leads. Do you think that you'll continue this 3 days on, 3 days off, or not? There's no off in this story. 3 days of one, 3 days of the other, or do you think that that's something that's also open to change?
Um, I'm just going to take a moment to say hi to all my surgery friends because I know they're going to be watching this. I'm not
Oh,
going anywhere.
oh, sorry.
No, but it's true. Like, I get this asked a lot, which is like, when do you want to be a full-time artist? And I I feel like I already am, and that the tension between this kind of notion of a day job in surgery and then my studio practice, I really do feel like they feed each other, at least for now.
Hmm.
And it feels sustainable and it feels good to continue working at the hospital with these really brilliant people that I love. Like, I have these amazing conversations, especially with my anesthesiologist friends, about the nature of consciousness. Like, do we really know what's happening when you give someone anesthesia and they go to sleep? Like,
Hmm.
most of them will tell me, like, you kind of don't know. Like,
No, I mean, the purpose is just to remove the pain so they're not flailing about when you're in surgery. I remember talking to my grandfather about like doing surgery pre-anesthesia and like what a chaos mess that was, right? I mean, sort of, or like field medicine basically.
yeah. And then I found
So
out you can give plants anesthesia and they will stop reacting. Like, anesthesia is like a sensory blockade, then that causes you to lose consciousness. So then
right.
you're like, if it works on plants, are at some level, are they conscious? Like,
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
so then, yeah, we get into all of this. I'm like, I love all of these conversations that I'm having, and I love both worlds that I'm occupying. And so, so long as that's true, I
Hmm.
think that I'll like still be trying to do this like 50-50 balance between both worlds.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no reason to, I mean, you're obviously both things, and that's fine. I think I was just also curious too about that, because I know for myself, when I'm working on a certain project, a certain work habit like aligns really well, and then I
Mm,
notice it just stops working, and then it's like, oh, I think I need to shift, and now like I need to be doing like, well, I don't have as much. I have children, so I don't have, and you have this job. You can't just like randomly decide that you're going to work for 7 days straight or something. But I'm just curious if you're seeing like that formula of going into your studio for these long, long hours, serving the next trajectory, or if you're just open to. I mean, it sounds like you can just do whatever you like because you have the time.
I was like, I'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
I have to say, one really cool thing about the program that I've been in, I'm at the Maryland Institute College of Art for a Low-Residency MFA. So that means this is the fourth year. Over the last 3 years, every summer I come for 6 weeks and do like an intensive residency, which has been so nice because I go back to my day job and I save all of my vacation days in my little vacation day piggy bank and then put them all together to come here. But being able to like take a big chunk of time and sprint has been really, it's been beautiful. And like, so I do think that I'll continue this kind of same thing where I'm having 50-50 between my two lives, but then carving out a chunk of time to do like a big project and like really sink into it for like a month or so.
Right.
Like,
right.
The residency model really like works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. It's a great thing to know about yourself too.
I'm really grateful for this Low-Residency program, like that they exist, that I was able then to kind of keep surgery and like not have to give it up.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my
keep
gosh.
my life in Los Angeles. And so it's like bittersweet. I'm like really excited to be finished, but I'm also just like, this was really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. But it sounds like that's something that you understand how that works. So you can recreate that for yourself. Either by just making your own residency every summer or applying to one and throwing your hat in the rat race for the those residencies. Well, I wanted to thank you for allowing us to share your work paired with the video that we have, which is also looking at death and the afterlife in a different way.
The video was so cool. I just want to stop and say, like, I said yes, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And I didn't really know what I was getting paired with except for just the premise and watching it and making, like, I've made a bunch of people from my MFA program watch it with me.
Good.
And we love it.
Great.
And I'm like, there's something, too, about what you're doing that's so exciting in pairing these. I don't know. I just felt very lucky to be included. And then I got paired with something that was so cool and so exciting to watch.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, we definitely, Jennifer, the other half of this program, and I, we definitely, it feels curated. I mean, that's what we're saying, because we just want the visual art, and it's hard because video is also visual art, but I'm saying the video and the postcards, we want them to be talking to each other, and we're interested in how artists are dealing with similar themes and similar ideas, but coming at it from a different angle. And yeah, Ian and Clint are, they're looking at this mummy that's like, it has inscriptions on its tomb about how it wants to be able to speak in the afterlife. And then these scientists did the like most literal interpretation of speaking in the afterlife. And they're like, we're going to 3D print the vocal cords, and just goes like, bah! Like it's, and
I mean, could play it like a kazoo. It's like so.
Yeah, and you think like,
rude.
Of course, like that's what my voice box does too, but that's not how I communicate with the world. And then the newscasters are just like laughing hysterically, and because it is hilarious, and yet you're like, this is someone's like wish, I mean, this is like those people who want to be cryogenically frozen until science could save them, or that there's like this whole desire to live on. And I think also about like organ donation and how like that's something that's really important to me, that this idea, like if I could be of any use to somebody somehow, like of course, right? And this idea of like all humans being connected, and what you were talking about earlier, and anyhow, so yeah, we were just really happy that you said yes, because Jen had spotted your work and was like, we need to find out how to reach this artist, because it elevates the video perspective as well, I think, because it's asking people to like really look at this stuff and not just, because the video is really funny too, right? And it's kind of irreverent. And so we wanted people to actually take it seriously at the same time, because what they are saying is really profound, but they're reaching it through humor, which is obviously a great way to reach people as well.
Absolutely.
So,
but you made the video. Is that where you had a hand in making the video?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Like, just wanted to give you your props, because I loved it. The performance was really great. They were really great, but I was also like, video is slick. Like,
oh, thanks.
So good.
Yeah, well, Jen and I saw the live performance, and then we had to like imagine how to turn that into a video, because we were like, people need to see this. And also we have, we did it in her garage. And we don't have like a budget or anything. So it was all these like favors, and you're talking about like saving your vacation days and kind of hoarding them. And we do that with favors. So we have like equipment we can borrow and this and that, and we hoard all our little favors, and then we like use them all on something like this project. But anyways, we've been selling a ton of these tickets because people just really want to have a postcard of their own mailed to their house. And we will be sharing this in the public library system within LA County. We have 7 branches of the LA Public Library, Pasadena Public Library, and Altadena. And so in a couple of months, your postcards will be available at those libraries for free. But for this month, folks can sign up on our website, and I will mail them a postcard. And then whenever you get back to LA, you'll have yours waiting for you in your mailbox.
Yay! It'll be in 10 days, and I can't wait.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks so much, Ariel. Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in real life as well. But for now, the internet did a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.